Hey, this is Dr. Drew. And have your labs or blood work come back normal, but you still feel awful? If so, I'm going to take you through what I consider to be the optimal ranges and how we can get you feeling better. Because quite often people will come to me and say, I saw my doctor, I had my blood work done, everything's in normal range, but I still don't feel 100%. The top ones I see are vitamin D, B12, thyroid, and iron or ferritin levels. And the reason being is because the ranges for these things are huge. But I'm less concerned with the reference range and more concerned with the optimal range that helps you thrive. So the reference range is what they compare you to in the lab. So you have your values against the reference range. But what we have to know about reference ranges is it's made up of the population that gets blood work done. Who's typically getting blood work done? These are people that don't feel 100%, and that's how the averages are generated that they plot you against. So wouldn't it make more sense to find the optimal ranges for all these and then look at that? So let's start with vitamin D. The Canadian units go from 75 to 150, but your optimal ranges are more like 100 to 125 because the vitamin D levels help us regulate our immune system, our bone health, our heart health, our brain health. It's also a pro-hormone, so it helps with the hormone system. And if you're just sitting around 75, 80, 85, I can tell you right away, that is too low. And if people are dealing with cancer, it even needs to be higher. The research is very clear. If you get it even closer to 175 or 200, longevity and length of life will go up. B12 is another interesting one. The reference range is about 350 all the way up to 655. But I'll routinely catch people at that 150, 200, 300 range where they're kind of low normal and it just gets dismissed, but people feel way better. They burn more fat, they have more energy, better mood and mental health when they get to that 800 or 1000 for vitamin B12. And the thing with B12, unlike the other B vitamins, is you only get it from high quality meats. So if people are doing like a vegan or vegetarian diet, or maybe they're just not eating enough red meat and they're an omnivore, I'll catch them on the low end, and that needs to be repleted because you're not gonna get it from plant-based food. So we'll get them to add more meat, maybe more organ meats into their diet, use B12 shots into the shoulder to actually get the levels up because you're gonna have horrible low energy and fatigue. And sometimes this can even look like early Alzheimer's in the elderly because their B12 levels are falling. Give them a B12 shot, boom, they perk up right away. Let's move into thyroid. So thyroid regulates metabolism, energy, body temperature, growth, system-wide. System-wide, it communicates with our endocrine system for regulating estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone as well. So if this is not functioning at 100%, you're gonna feel slow, tired, and sluggish. The range on TSH is 0.5 to 5.5. But let me tell you, if you're not in that optimal range of 1 to 2, there could be some issues going on, especially if you have symptoms. So if you're caught in that 3.5, 4, 4.5, again, you're in the normal range, but it's not where we want you to be. And I'm all about fixing stuff earlier, sooner rather than later. That's where the preventative and the proactive approach comes in. Why do we always be reactive and wait for things to get totally out of control before doing anything about it? It just blows my mind. So narrow it down to that 1 to 2 and take a look at your blood work. Is that where you are? Do you feel great? If not, this needs to be reviewed. And then finally, probably the biggest problem I see is surrounding iron levels and ferritin, because iron deficiency anemia is one of the most common deficiencies we see worldwide. The ferritin levels are your storage form of iron. The range on this is 15 to 247, which is massive. So you could have a ferritin of 20 and be normal and in range, but you're gonna feel like crap because optimally that ferritin needs to be between 80 and 100 because oxygen needs to move around your body. It needs to go to all your organs. That attaches to the hemoglobin on the red blood cell. And if you don't have enough oxygen carrying capacity, you're gonna feel like crap. And that's why so many people with low iron feel terrible. Tired all the time, they don't have that second wind, they'll get dizzy on standing, lightheaded, they'll feel fatigued, brain fog. Also will inhibit your thyroid function because you need a certain amount of ferritin in order to get the thyroid system functioning properly. So needless to say, if you're sitting at a 20 or 25 or 30, that is simply too low. You're on about a quarter to maybe a fifth tank of gas. And so if you feel that way, that's why you need to get it closer to 80 or 100. Now guys, on the other hand, don't have to worry about this as much because we don't shed iron every month the way females do. But for guys and women that are now in menopause, you need to also look at the ferritin going too high. So as I was saying, 80 to 100 is optimal. If it goes to 150, 200, or 250, that can start to be pro-inflammatory. it generates free radicals through the Ferritin reaction, and you need to actually donate blood on a semi-regular basis in order to keep the ferritin levels steady. And if people are 30 or less, or say they're dealing with like celiac disease or chronic bleeding due to hormone imbalances, they may need an iron infusion in order to get that up quick, because what I tell you about oral iron supplements is they cause a lot of gut rot and constipation in people. They're just not well absorbed. So I'm much more into people using desiccated liver capsules, food-based sources of heme iron from high quality red meats a few times a week. That's a much better strategy than just pounding down a bunch of pills that make you feel awful. And it takes a lot longer to do it orally, so sometimes an iron infusion may be necessary. So the big takeaway from this video today is, you truly feel like something's wrong, something probably is. I always say symptoms are king, blood work is secondary. Blood work's super important. Really gives us insight, clues, and ideas as to what may be going on with the person. But symptoms are king. Those are number one. You have to look at those first. So if your blood markers come back what appears to be normal, but you still feel awful or like garbage, that needs to be addressed, okay? Because there's still symptoms, and I just like to believe and trust all my patients. I don't like to tell them it's in their head, or that, well, according to this, you should feel fine because the blood work looks good, so we'll see you in a year. Meanwhile, a year goes by and they're gonna feel even worse when they come back. So I'm all about using the symptoms to guide treatment, how we're doing, are they improving, are they getting worse, and just continue that investigative process until you figure out what's going on, and then we can build a treatment plan to get them feeling better, okay? So if you've had blood work done, came back normal, but you still feel awful, definitely reach out. I'd be happy to chat with you about this. This is what I do. And as always, thank you for watching.